1937, the world was marching toward the abyss. The entire planet still pretended to believe in peace. But behind the scenes, empires were arming themselves. Dictators were eliminating their own citizens. Cities were beginning to turn into ashes. And while world leaders gave speeches about diplomacy, the world was already slowly sliding toward World War II. 1937 was not just another year of the 1930s. It was the moment humanity began to lose control. In this episode, we will follow the year in which Stalin plunged the Soviet Union into a wave of terror. The Spanish Civil War revealed the horrors of modern warfare. Japan launched a brutal campaign in China, and the alliances that would define World War II finally began to take shape. And as the months pass, it becomes increasingly clear the world was not moving toward peace, but directly toward chaos. At the beginning of the 1930s, many still believed that another world war could be avoided. The so-called spirit of Locarno promised cooperation, stability and disarmament. But in 1937, those hopes had already been destroyed. Japan, Italy, and Germany were aggressively expanding their power. And in the Soviet Union, Joseph Stalin saw enemies everywhere, fearing internal conspiracies and external threats. Stalin accelerated Soviet industrialization while unleashing one of the most violent repression campaigns in modern history. The NKVD, the Soviet secret police, launched a massive wave of arrests, thousands, then tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands. What began as political paranoia quickly turned into a true collective delusion, a relentless hunt for the so-called enemies of the people. And the most terrifying part, most of the victims were completely innocent. Even so, they were forced, often under torture, to confess to absurd crimes. Before being executed or sent to the feared gulags, labor camps so brutal that many never returned. But Stalin did not want only to eliminate strangers. He wanted to destroy any possibility of opposition. Even former revolutionary allies began to be accused of treason. In Moscow, the famous show trials took place. Old Bolsheviks publicly confessed unbelievable stories: espionage, sabotage, secret alliances with foreign governments, everything staged, everything fabricated, and at the end of the trials came the inevitable sentence: execution. Among the victims was the brilliant Marshal Mikhail Tukhachevsky, considered one of the Soviet Union's greatest military strategists. The result was devastating. Stalin himself was destroying some of the best minds and commanders in his country. Estimates point to between 600 and 700,000 deaths during the purges, one of the greatest acts of political self-sabotage in history. Meanwhile, in Africa, Ethiopia continued resisting the Italian occupation. Even after being annexed into Mussolini's colonial empire the previous year, Ethiopian groups were still fighting the invaders. But there was one problem: they simply could not compete with modern Italian weaponry. In February, the last major organized Ethiopian force was destroyed in Gogeti, and then the violence escalated even further. After an assassination attempt against the Italian viceroy in Addis Ababa, the fascist troops responded with extreme brutality. Thousands of civilians were massacred, but the worst was still to come. And it would happen in Spain. The Spanish Civil War had already become the center of global attention. Madrid remained surrounded. Bombings destroyed entire neighborhoods, and the world watched in horror. In March, the Republicans achieved an important victory at Guadalajara, defeating Italian forces sent by Mussolini. But it would only be a brief moment of hope, because the nationalists led by Franco were more organized, better armed, and directly supported by Hitler and Mussolini. In the spring of 1937, the nationalists launched a brutal offensive in northern Spain. And then Guernica happened. The German Condor Legion bombed the small Basque Town explosions, fires, panic. More than 200 civilians died. The world was shocked because Guernica seemed to reveal something terrifying. The future of warfare. No longer would it be only soldiers dying on battlefields. Now, entire cities could be destroyed from the sky. And even in the face of such horror, Britain, France, and the United States remained trapped in a policy of non-intervention. The world watched, but did not act. Japan marches into China, while Europe sank deeper into tension. Asia erupted into war. The success of Japan's conquest of Manchuria greatly strengthened the military within Japan. The new Prime Minister, Prince Konoe, fully supported imperial expansion. Military spending skyrocketed. The economy grew fueled by resources taken from Manchuria. And then, on July 7, 1937, an apparently small incident changed everything. Near Beijing, the disappearance of a Japanese soldier led to an exchange of gunfire. The episode became known as the Marco Polo Bridge incident. But what seemed like a local conflict quickly spiraled out of control. Japan sent reinforcements. Chiang Kai-shek mobilized China for total war, and a large-scale invasion began. The fall of Shanghai and the horror of Nanking Japanese. Troops were smaller in number, but they had something. Decisive discipline, modern weaponry, and combat experience. Beijing fell quickly, then came new offensives across northern China. In just weeks, nearly 200,000 Japanese soldiers occupied vast Chinese territories, trying to halt the advance. Chiang Kai-shek launched an offensive in Shanghai. The result was a gigantic battle. For 3 months, nearly 1 million soldiers fought over China's largest city. Shanghai became ruins, and when Chinese forces retreated to Nanjing, the true horror began. After capturing the city, Japanese soldiers unleashed weeks of absolute terror, homes looted, mass executions, rapes, torture, murders. Chinese prisoners of war were killed in groups. Civilians were executed. Indiscriminately, estimates vary, but between 100 and 200,000 people may have died. The episode would forever become known as the Rape of Nanjing. The world condemned the massacres. But once again, there was no concrete action. The alliances of war begin to emerge. By the end of 1937, the future alliances of World War II were already beginning to appear clearly. Hitler came to see Japan as the ideal strategic partner in Asia. Germany cut off military support to China. Stalin did exactly the opposite. He signed a non-aggression pact with Chiang Kai-shek and increased military aid to China. The Soviet objective was simple: keep Japan occupied far from the Siberian borders. Meanwhile, in Europe, Hitler quietly advanced with even bigger plans. Hitler plans expansion. In November 1937, Hitler gathered Germany's top military leaders. For the first time, he openly revealed his plan to annex Austria and Czechoslovakia. His goal was to create living space for the German people. Empire expansion, economic domination, and Hitler already admitted something terrifying. These plans would probably lead to a major European war, a war that, according to him, would ideally happen around 1943 or 1944, but events would move much faster than he imagined. Roosevelt and the fear of the future in the United States. President Franklin Roosevelt watched everything with deep concern. He warned the world about a new era of international violence. He spoke about invasions, disrespect for treaties, and the collapse of the world order. But there was one problem. The American people were still deeply isolationist. Congress passed neutrality laws. Most citizens wanted distance from European conflicts. Even so, Roosevelt realized something few were willing to admit. Neutrality might not be enough to prevent the next global catastrophe. By the end of 1937, the planet was unrecognizable. The Soviet Union was sinking into terror. Spain had become a testing ground for future wars. China was bleeding under the Japanese invasion, and Hitler was quietly preparing his expansion. Peace still existed, but it was dying quickly, and the entire world was about to discover the true price of that. If you enjoy real stories told with cinematic intensity, make sure to subscribe to the channel, because in the next episodes, we will follow how the world moved step by step toward the beginning of the greatest war in history,